Now, the big thing about 2019 was going to be, even before the season ever started, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Nick Foles or is it going to be Carson Wentz? Who is the quarterback that this team's going to hitch their wagon to? Who's the quarterback that this team's going to latch onto and say, that's our guy going forward? Now, there was only one obvious and correct answer, and that was, of course, Carson Wentz. Eagles fans can delude themselves with the thoughts of playoff runs and Super Bowl wins with Foles and all of this and all of that. But the reality is, man, Wentz is the guy you traded up big for to go get in 2016. Wentz is the guy that was playing at an MVP level in 2017 before he went down. It's not a hard decision. It had to be Carson Wentz. It had to be. And they did make that choice. And Nick Foles left, and now he's with Chicago, actually, after the stop in Jacksonville for a year. And they keep Carson Wentz and end up giving him that long-term extension. So, not surprising, and it was the right move. As you go into 2019, now this leaves Eagles fans, probably a lot of them questioning that decision, whether or not that was truly the right call. But maybe more importantly, as much as anything else, just the overall concern about, is Carson Wentz actually going to be able to make it through a season entirely healthy? And maybe you feel okay about your chances if he actually does, but if he doesn't, you feel like you're in a world of trouble here. And how crazy it is that the Eagles actually finally got a 16-game season out of Carson Wentz. He was 100% healthy the whole year, relatively speaking. Healthy enough to have started and played all 16 games. And leave it to the Eagles to sit there and figure out, hey, our franchise quarterback actually is available for the franchise every week. What a novel concept. And then with 4 games to go in the season, they were sitting there at 5-7 on the outside and looking in the playoffs. Not good. Fortunately for them, though, playing a crappy division, so 5-7 had them right in the mix of it. And the Eagles, with some of that championship and playoff experience and some of that leadership and the coaching of Doug Peterson, figured out a way to rally at the end of the year. They won their last 4 games. Most importantly, the critically important Week 16 game against Dallas. That put them in a position to get to the playoffs. They won the NFC East. It wasn't pretty. They weren't exactly a great team last year by any stretch of the imagination, but they found a way ultimately to get it done. And it just goes to figure, doesn't it? You're an Eagles fan. They finally have Carson Wentz healthy. He makes it to the postseason healthy. You feel good. You've got a home playoff game against the Seahawks. You're saying to yourself, okay, played him somewhat close in the regular season. Maybe you find a way to beat him in the postseason. And then Carson Wentz gets knocked out of the game early with a concussion after Jadeveon Clowney hits him from behind while he's on the ground. Season over. As much as 40-plus-year-old Josh McCown tried, it just wasn't going to happen. And it's going to suck if you're Eagles fans. Because everybody knows, especially Eagles fans, appreciate the fact of the window of opportunity to win championships can be very small. The window of opportunity you can truly contend gets smaller by the day. So you don't want to see opportunities or chances pass by when you can get into the playoffs like this, and especially when you actually had your young franchise quarterback healthy and available for the playoffs until he wasn't. But them's the breaks. And the reality is, if you're an Eagles fan, even if they did beat the Seahawks, you know they're done in the next round anyway. So it's not like they would have gone much further. But all in all, for the Eagles, probably not the best of seasons, but still found a way to get it done, getting a division crown, getting into the playoffs. Now in the offseason, you saw the departure of Malcolm Jenkins, a longtime presence and leader in that secondary and on that Eagles defense. They signed Javon Hargrave away from the Pittsburgh Steelers, add some, prime years peak play on the defensive line to a unit that in theory could still be pretty good. Notably, with the NFL draft, they took Jalen Reagor in the first round, the wide receiver from TCU. I don't think this surprised anybody at all. Did it? I think you could see this coming a mile away. One thing they were clearly lacking last year was speed and difference maker type ability at the wide receiver position. So you had to figure they were going here and trying to get somebody in the draft, especially because, if you remember, they had brought back Deshaun Jackson and hoping they would get the full season out of him, and they just didn't. I think he only played a couple of games, if I remember correctly. So they needed some more help, some more youth and speed at the wide receiver position, and they're hoping they got it with Jalen Reagor. The big surprise, of course, was the second round choice when they took Jalen Hurts, the quarterback from Oklahoma. This was a surprise. It was a legit surprise. And, I got to say this for the Eagles in this selection. Right now, if you utilize him as a Taysom Hill type of guy, the pick could make sense in the short term. Deploy him as like a secondary quarterback, deploy him out of the backfield, line him up at wide receiver, utilize him all over the place on offense. Like, you've seen the Saints use this and enjoy some success with it. Why not be able to do it with him? It also gives you insurance for saying, hey, if Wentz gets hurt again, we can feel comfortable and confident with the backup option that we have. And I get that. And you could also say for the Eagles, while you could certainly argue there were other needs on the team, spending a second round pick on a backup quarterback, while it doesn't sound ideal, isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. And the only reason I say that is when you think about ways that you can save your team money in terms of under the salary cap, one way to do that is to have a very low cost option as your backup quarterback. And at least here you got a low cost option at quarterback that isn't some practice squad training camp scrub. This is somebody that actually had some talent, flashed some real promise at 2019 at Oklahoma. You just happened to take him in the second round. Like if Wentz gets hurt this year and Hurts has to come in and start and he plays well, nobody's going to care that they took him in the second round. In fact, you're going to have a new quarterback controversy of who should be the guy long term. But for the next several years, to complement the big time contract you gave Carson Wentz, one way to kind of balance out and manage the salary cap is to have that young backup behind him. Let it play out and let's see what things happen long term. But while it might have struck people as odd, and you admittedly at the time struck me a little odd too, again, time gives you a little bit more perspective to think about these things. It may not have been the decision that I made, but it was the decision that they made, and I can at least understand it. I can understand it. Now, for the Eagles, there's reason for optimism. This is a team that's made the playoffs the past couple of years. They were division champs last year. They've still got quite a bit of their core returning. They've still got what I surmise to be a top-end run defense. So it's going to be hard to run against them, which is going to be important in the division with Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott, just saying. This is a team that's won quite a number of games the past few years. So there's a culture of success there for Philadelphia, which can matter. There could be a confidence there that this team's had their backs up against the wall before, and they figured out a way to overcome that. And that is a kind of intangible quality that not everybody has. But when you do have it as a team, it can certainly work out to your advantage, to your benefit, and provide a tremendous amount of value. When I look at this team, though, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but I'm just assuming most people are thinking it's going to be Eagles and Cowboys or Cowboys and Eagles at the top of this division in some order. And I just don't know why that is. Because even when you talk about the Eagles, yeah, they ended up winning the division. They went 9-7 last year, but they were 5-7 at one point. And they were a legit 5-7. This was just an underperforming football team. They were not that good. You can talk about other injuries or other excuses in other places, but the bottom line is you actually have Carson Wentz healthy, and with a month to go in the season, you were still 5-7. And I don't see where this team got significantly better in the offseason. Even talking about Alshon Jeffrey's going to be out the first few weeks, and we were talking at one point about trying to trade him. Sure, you got Zach Ertz, and that's nice, but who else you got? Is Arcega Whiteside going to step up and make a big impact? Is Deshaun Jackson going to be in the receiving corps and healthy? Is Rieger going to be able to come in and do something right away? I worry about that. How is that receiving corps going to hold up? Probably means they're going to have to use Miles Sanders quite a bit as a pass catcher out of the backfield. So we'll see how his development goes in year number 2. And I look at that defense and I say, okay, I still think that linebacking corps is kind of soft. Sorry, I do. But I look at that secondary. No more Malcolm Jenkins. I look at them and I say, can they make the big stops when needed? Can they make some big plays when needed? And I'm just not 100% sold that they truly can. I'm just not. I was impressed by the fact that they took advantage of their situation last year, even though they were at 5-7, to come back and win out and be able to make the playoffs. But it just felt like they were punting on the inevitable a little bit. I think this year is where a little bit of reality creeps in. I've got the Eagles as more of a 7-9 team in this division, and yeah, that's right. I've got them finishing third in the division. Sorry, not sorry.